Imagine waking up tomorrow and discovering that every invention humanity has ever created still exists, but no one remembers how to use it. The machines still stand. The tools remain untouched. Yet no one knows what any of them are for. Civilization survives, but the knowledge that built it has vanished. It sounds like science fiction, yet for most of human history, this nightmare was only one generation away. Long before books, schools, or the internet, an entire family's future depended on something far more fragile than stone or fire. It depended on living memory. But why would evolution spend precious resources keeping older people alive long after their strongest years had passed? And could the rise of grandparents have quietly changed the course of human civilization itself? The answer begins tens of thousands of years ago, beside a fire where the oldest faces may have mattered more than anyone imagined. For decades, scientists believed human evolution was driven mostly by sharper tools, bigger brains, and stronger hunters. But a growing body of research now points to a quieter force, one that almost never leaves behind fossils: knowledge. Unlike claws or muscles, knowledge isn't inherited at birth. Every generation has to earn it all over again. Early humans lived in landscapes that changed without warning, predators that constantly adapted, and seasons that offered no guarantees. A single mistake could erase an entire family line. In that world, experience became as valuable as any spear. Those who had survived countless winters carried something no young hunter could gain overnight, patterns revealed only through decades of living, and those invisible patterns may have become humanity's greatest evolutionary advantage. The real challenge was never remembering ordinary days. It was surviving the extraordinary ones. A successful hunt teaches today's lesson, but a drought that comes only once in 50 years teaches something no young person has ever lived through. Anthropologists studying modern hunter-gatherer societies have found that older members often guide critical decisions during environmental crises, not because they're stronger, but because they recognize warning signs others don't. A strange migration pattern, an unusually dry season, or the sudden disappearance of familiar plants can all signal disaster long before it arrives. Experience allows the brain to connect events separated by decades, turning scattered memories into life-saving predictions. In evolutionary terms, that ability was priceless. A tribe that trusted hard-earned experience could avoid repeating deadly mistakes, while another that ignored those warnings might unknowingly walk straight into the very disaster their ancestors had already survived. In prehistory, humanity's greatest weapon wasn't always the sharpest spear, it was the oldest memory. But memory alone wasn't enough. It had to be passed on before time erased it forever. Long before writing existed, ancient humans found remarkable ways to preserve knowledge inside the human mind. It lived in stories told around the fire, echoed through seasonal gatherings, took shape in daily routines, and grew stronger through traditions passed from one generation to the next. Modern neuroscience shows that emotional stories stay with us far longer than isolated facts, helping explain why storytelling became one of humanity's earliest and most powerful learning tools. That may be why nearly every ancient culture filled its world with legends instead of simple explanations. Hidden inside those stories were warnings about dangerous animals, changing weather, forgotten migration routes, edible plants, and even the hidden dangers of human nature. To an outsider, they sounded like myths. But to the people who lived them, they were survival guides disguised as stories. Every story carried a lesson, every lesson preserved a memory, and every memory gave the next generation a better chance to survive. As generations passed, those living libraries quietly accumulated something no single lifetime could ever produce, a body of wisdom shaped across centuries. In the final chapter, we'll discover how that unbroken chain of shared knowledge transformed small bands of survivors into the species that eventually reshaped the entire planet. Every smartphone, satellite, and scientific breakthrough can trace its origins back to a simple habit our ancestors unknowingly perfected: making sure experience outlived the individual. Evolution didn't just reward speed, strength, or intelligence. It rewarded the ability to preserve knowledge and pass it from one generation to the next, allowing each generation to begin where the last one ended instead of starting over from nothing. Many scientists believe this extraordinary ability to accumulate knowledge across generations became humanity's greatest evolutionary advantage, helping us adapt to changing worlds faster than any other species ever could. Civilization wasn't built by isolated geniuses or a handful of extraordinary inventions. It was built one conversation at a time, through millions of ordinary moments between those who had already survived life's hardest lessons and those about to face them for the very first time. Every warning shared, every story remembered, and every lesson passed on became another small step toward the world we know today. In many ways, that ancient system is still alive, somewhere in your own family, An older relative remembers a story, a skill, a warning, or a lesson that exists nowhere else on Earth. When those memories disappear without ever being shared, a unique piece of human history disappears with them forever. Perhaps the greatest inheritance our ancestors ever left us wasn't a tool, a weapon, or even fire itself. It was the decision to teach before they were gone, because long before humanity learned to build monuments, write books, cross oceans, or launch spacecraft into the stars, we first mastered something even more extraordinary: making one lifetime become part of the next. That may have been the moment our future truly began, and perhaps that's still how humanity moves forward today. Not through what we invent, but through what we choose to pass on. If you enjoy exploring the hidden forces that shaped humanity and the forgotten stories that still shape our lives today, subscribe and join us for the next journey into our ancient past.